The theme this evening is really this. It's about the power of the web, and it's about open innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, would you please join me in welcoming to the stage for the first time in Dubai, Chris Anderson.
I'm going to be talking tonight about something I think Du represents as well, which is not about technology itself, but about the impact of technology, how it changes our lives, and how technology enables us to change the world around us. What we've learned over the last 20 years is that we have not just new technologies, new communication methods, new ways to work with computers, but what we've learned is we've got a new way to work together. That what the web created was, above all else, a new innovation model beyond companies, institutions, and governments. Thanks to access to technology is really what's created this wave of innovation and experimentation. An industrial revolution is a big word. I mean, you don't throw this around lightly. The first industrial revolution was, more than anything else, the liberation of the mind. What we took was, humankind was essentially muscle power. We were working the land. We were using our brute force. And we let machines take over that role, and we became more about brain power. But it had one slightly mixed consequence, which is that it concentrated people and economic activity around the factory, around a single thing. And the factory was owned by a company. And what happened is that it concentrated power in the hands of the few. You could argue that the second industrial revolution was the digital revolution. But it wasn't just the invention of the computer, it was the democratization of the computer. I'm going to divide the two aspects of the digital revolution into the ability to create and the ability to distribute. I've chosen, on the left, not a picture of the personal computer, but a picture of the laser printer. Macintosh came out in 1984. And then the laser printer came out the next year. And this is the concept of desktop publishing. And, today we take this for granted. But at that time, desktop publishing was a mind-blowing concept. Remember, printing plants were factories. The media industry of the 20th century owned the means of production. They had a monopoly on distribution. They had a monopoly on consumer attention because they owned the factory. Publishing was not for you. Publishing was for them. Publishing was for big companies, not individuals. And publishing certainly didn't happen on a desktop. And yet here it was, the laser printer, which could publish with a high quality as a professional printer. And then along came the second necessary element: democratizing the means of distribution. And that was the web. And now suddenly we understood what it meant to disrupt publishing. We understood what it meant to democratize the tools of production in media. Suddenly, everyone didn't just have a voice, but they had a megaphone. And they changed the world. So that's the power of democratization. But that happened in bits. This happened in the digital world. It's on screens. What about the world that we live in? Well, those two necessary factors have just kicked in. To the left is a 3D printer. What it does is it takes images on a screen, just like a regular printer. In this case, the images are CAD diagrams. They're geometries of an object. And it just creates a physical object. Anything you can imagine, you can produce. This is the new factory. This here is Tech Shop. Tech Shop is it's a shared making space. These are the seeds of a new manufacturing model. These are shared spaces where you have the 3D printers and the CNC machines and the laser cutters and the embroidery and the stitching and the quilting, and every possible form of making you can imagine is here and shared and available to you, with coaches to help you use it. And what you see here are the inventors who are becoming entrepreneurs. All they have to do is click a button, and they upload them to these outsourced manufacturing, these factories that are now accepting orders from individuals, and now they're not just inventors, but entrepreneurs as well. Every region is starting to realize that we have an opportunity for a new kind of entrepreneurship involving physical stuff. And so they're creating these shared spaces where A small number of these desktop fabrication tools, 3D printers and beyond, are available to anybody. And what we're seeing is this explosion of new ideas. People are coming out of the woodwork with concepts, with physical concepts they never would have been able to build before. Fundamentally, for the first time in history, making is manufacturing. It's not just tinkering in your workshop. It's not just a hobby. The same process of designing an object, putting it on screen using commonly available CAD software, and making a prototype on a cheap desktop device is exactly the same as starting manufacturing. We now have the capacity to make one or make a million. Any one of us can get into business exactly like the web. What was so liberating about the web? Low barriers to entry. Anybody with a laptop, an internet connection, could become an entrepreneur. A bunch of kids in Palo Alto posted their idea of a watch. By the time this evening is out, they're going to pass $10 million. $10 million of pre-orders. No venture capital, no private equity, no bank loan. All they did is they put up a concept, an idea, and people rallied around it. It creates a community. Everybody who backs this watch now wants this watch to exist. They want it to come into being. So that community then becomes the marketers. Each one of them not only gave this company $100, $120, whichever one they chose, but they have now become word-of-mouth evangelists. And perhaps the most important thing Kickstarter does is market research. It's absolute genius. And this is part of the open innovation model as well. My children are growing up in a world where they know that anything they can imagine, they can make. When their instinct is now to make rather than buy, now the ability to make is simply a button press. It's a menu item. This is incredibly powerful. What we've basically seen is that the means of production are a mouse click away. So this is what I mean about the democratization of technology. This is desktop publishing for the manufacturing age. It's brand new, but I think your kids will take it for granted. The question simply is, what will they make? The guy in the front there I want to tell you about, his name is Jordi Munoz. Because I'm innately web-centric, I did all my thinking and research in public. This is what you do these days. If you have a question, you ask it in public. If you have an observation, you put it in public. If you have an idea, you share it. And so what I said is, as I was learning about drones and autopilots and electronics, about which I knew nothing, I said, well, I might as well just do it in public, engage in my journey of discovery on a website. So I created a website called DIY Drones on a social network platform. It was 2007, and we were past the blog age. It was all on social networking. And one of the first people who joined this was this guy who was flying a helicopter with a Wii controller. He'd hacked the Wii controller and hacked this thing called Arduino, which is this open source processing board. And he'd gotten the two to work together, and he was flying it with his Wii controller, which is pretty cool. And he posted on YouTube because that's what you do. And I said, that's awesome, tell me a little bit more. And he told me about Arduino, and he explained about how he did it, and everyone said, oh, cool, share the code. And he shared the code, and shared the design files, and he shared the design files. And we were doing the same thing. We were sharing our design files. It's all open source. It's all Creative Commons, all this kind of stuff. And it was like, it's really easy, guys. All you need to do is upload this design file to a printed circuit board fabrication facility, and then solder all these components that you buy from the store. And everyone's like, that's way too hard. So we thought, well, we probably need to make it for them. We probably need to get into the business of manufacturing these things. So I said, Jordi, would you like to be my partner? We'll start a company. And he said, absolutely, let's do it. And so when the editor-in-chief of Wired magazine decided to start a drone company, he picked a Mexican teenager who'd never been to college. And it's worked out brilliantly. All of the ideas, all the R&D, all the intellectual property is created by our community, which is now tens of thousands of people and hundreds of developers. And it's really kind of amazing. We have people who work at Apple and make your iPhone by day, and by night, they're designing autopilots for us for free. Why are they doing this? It's not altruism. It's not charity. They're doing it because they believe in it. They're doing it because we gave them a platform on which they can innovate. They're doing it because they can't help themselves. They're doing it because they're passionate about the subject, because they want to be on the bleeding edge of robotics, because they know that if they give away a little of their own ideas, they'll get back much more in return. They're doing it to be part of something they believe in. So when I say that I think we're at the beginning of a new industrial revolution, it's because I've done it and I've seen it and I'm watching it happen in real time. As these as these powerful desktop prototyping, these desktop manufacturing tools get out there, we're seeing the exact same thing that happened with the web browser, with the mobile revolution, and everything else. What we're seeing is that this explosion of ideas and talent that's been out there all along just didn't have access to the means of production. So to end, this is the slogan, that atoms are the new bits. And what that means is simply that everything you've seen so far in the digital world is just prelude to what's going to happen in manufacturing.